were you when you first heard World Downfall by Terrorizer? I was 14 years old. A pen pal introduced me to this album. I was just beginning to get into metal. I was also starting to grow out my hair, so I still looked like a little weenie. I hadn't yet made the full transition into a man. I hadn't yet made the metamorphosis that was demanded of me by the sounds of the metal. Anyway, when I turned this album on, the tightness, the speed, the aggression, it all captivated me. I listened to Fear of Napalm and I thought, man, how can I play drums like this guy? So, I went on YouTube, I looked up Spiky Drummers videos, and I learned some tips, some tricks, some techniques, and I got pretty good, but no matter how good I get, I don't think it could ever hold a candle to what Pete Sandoval did here. Now yeah, he did great in Morbid Angel for the albums he did after this, but the drum performance on this album is worth the price of admission, okay? But let's talk about some of the other members. You have David Vincent, Morbid Angel extraordinaire. Yeah, he really holds it down with the bass, and his bass tone is really good. The production of the album's nice and crisp and sharp. It's so good. And then, of course, there's Jesse Pintado, who would find success in Napalm Death. It's easy to hear why Napalm would want him. And then there's Oscar Garcia, the actual vocalist of the album. He gives it the physicality and the aggression and the gutturals that the music calls for. Now, David Vinson is credited as also doing vocals on this album, but Oscar Garcia has come out and said that David Vinson himself is full of shit. So, when I first heard this album, I was 14 years old. I ran all across my yard at high speeds, and we had a ditch. And there was a wooden plank at one part of the ditch, and that was really designed so that way I could stand on this plank. It would be easier for me to weed eat the ditch. Now, do you think at 14 years old I wanted to do that shit? No! Fuck no! But having albums in the headphones like Human 2.0 or The Inalienable Dreamless made it more bearable for me. Well, I was running around the yard with this album playing in my headphones, and then I had the bright idea to start jumping on this wooden plank. I was jumping up and down on it. I was about 140 pounds. I didn't think that anything bad would happen, but sure enough, the fucking thing snapped and I fell and busted my ass into the ditch. Now, do you think that stopped me? Do you know what I did? I jumped out of the ditch and I kept running around in the yard, and that's the kind of power this album has. It just demands a physical response from you. The drum fills, they have flashing balls, the guitars, they're not too complicated. This album doesn't overcomplicate things, you know? There are no guitar solos, the songs aren't really that long, the album itself is only 36 minutes, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. You could listen to this album in a lunch break. I mean, it's kind of like lemon teching mushrooms. The onset comes on quicker, the high is more intense, and the trip doesn't last as long. But the only tripping that's gonna happen is you're gonna be tripping when you hear how fucking good this album is. Because all these years later, I listen to this album and I still get a big boner. I mean, just listen to Whirlwind Struggle or Dead Shall Rise. There's a part in Whirlwind Struggle where the guitar notes ring out, and meanwhile the double bass kicks are going. It's intense shit, man. You know, when I listen to music, sometimes I think of movie scenes that could play out with the music playing. For instance, Entombed, Left Hand Path, when I listen to that album, sometimes I think of walking down the trail that's on the cover of the album. Well, when I listen to World Downfall, I think of people running away from something inside a city. You know, like Godzilla or something. Well, they're running away from a monster, but the name of that monster is Terrorizer, World Downfall. You know, I also think of this album like a shark that's darting across the water trying to get to its prey. Now, you might be confident in your swimming abilities. You might be able to paddle hard, go longer, go faster. But I'm sorry, my friend. That shark, whose name happens to be Terrorizer World Downfall, is going to eat you for breakfast. A lot of the issues that the lyrics cover, unfortunately, would become more relevant depending on what part of the world you live in. This album really was just lightning in a bottle. It happened at the right time, the right place, with the right people, with the right songs, with the right cover artwork, with the right runtime. Terrorizer would reunite later with new members, but it just wasn't the same. I mean, this album, how do you top this album? That's a hard question to answer. But I'll say this, if you don't have World Downfall in your life, fix that shit.